bearing with us for 2 minutes while we gave some grace time for anybody who wanted to join in. There may be another panelist joining. It will be Hayden Groats from Adventure Cycling, though she will almost certainly be a black screen with just her name. She might hop on and help us with some of the tech stuff and help chat out some links to you all. But thank you for joining us today to chat with Nathan. What's your official title these days? I guess obviously we're going to start with your background, but it's changed a bit.
It is officially Digital Routes Manager.
With our Digital Routes Manager. Team. Yeah, awesome. Nathan here, obviously, who many of you know and are familiar with, and to learn about our short routes program, what it is, what it means, what the difference is between it and the rest of our adventure cycling route network, and how it fits into our strategy going forward. I'm actually going to take 1 second. I believe we may have just a squidge of back end issue here on the adventure cycling side, and I need to send the invite. Well, I can't really do anything about it now. Anyway, all right, well, let's just go ahead and get started then, Nathan. Speaking of your title, you've done a lot with adventure cycling. You've been here for how long now?
13 years.
13 years. The short routes program obviously has not been around for 13 years. So do you want to give us a little bit of background on what your wide variety of roles has been, particularly within the routes department, how it's changed, what your areas of focuses have been, and now particularly what you'll be doing with the short routes program?
Sure thing. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the discussion today. My name is Nathan Taylor, Digital Routes Manager with the Routes team at Adventure Cycling Association. I hear from a lot of people about what a cool job I have, and they're absolutely right. I come from a background of long distance backpacking. That's really what occupied so many of my years prior to family, prior to moving to Missoula. After locating here in Missoula in the late 90s, I discovered the ACA was right outside my door. During my walking adventures, again, long distance cross-country adventures on the PCT, the Appalachian Trail, among other long trails, I quickly realized that my goal of finishing one of these long trails, it really wouldn't have been possible without the support of others, family, friends, trail angels, random strangers on the side of the road who wanted to offer help. So it was from this place that I really wanted to give back due to all that generosity I received, and knowing that adventure cycling was in my new home, I became interested in working at ACA. Again, it was a paying it forward mission for me. I saw all these loaded bike travelers passing through Missoula in the summer, and I thought, where are they from and what are they doing? And there's a lot of them passing through. And I thought, how can I, help support them finishing their goal, realizing their goal and reaching the Pacific Ocean or Virginia in the east, because so many of them were on the Trans Am Trail. So I've been a part of growing the Adventure Cycling Route Network for 13 years now, as a primary cartographer on many different projects, primarily new routes and major route changes. The first major route change I worked on was back in 2012, which was the much publicized Bakken oil fields reroute of our northern tier and Lewis and Clark bicycle trail routes. Also during this time, I was involved in a massive project converting our old analog print map catalog into geospatial data. This, in effect, helped to usher in today's digital age of mapping, which I'm involved in now. Since that time, I've spearheaded route research efforts for the organization, for the routes mapping team in particular, I've made a ton of maps and moved into my current role, helping to manage digital systems that support GPX data, what we call our digital data files, the Bicycle Route Navigator mobile app, and other related technology. Undoubtedly, the most fulfilling aspect of my job, besides getting out on my bike and scouting new routes, is helping our members and customers use all the navigational tools effectively by the various devices, different applications to support trip planning. Again, there's a whole gamut of methods and technology of using these technology that riders are faced with when they're planning a trip today. And I really help to clear things up for riders as much as possible in that regard. I really love helping folks plan trips on the Great Divide. The Great Divide mountain bike route, it passes close by to Missoula. Actually, I helped research a spur route from Sealer Lake, Montana to Missoula that we unveiled in the 2018 major map revision for the Great Divide mountain bike route map set. And so it's the local route. I like to ride gravel more often these days, and so it provides for that experience. Also in 2022, I was finally able to carve the time out of my schedule and go out for a long excursion on the Great Divide mountain bike route. I began a northbound trip. It began actually in Utah. There's various reasons why I started in Utah, but mainly, if those of you who were on the Great Divide remember, last year there were early season fires in New Mexico, which prompted several route closures in late May, so pretty early. And so rather than deal with all those reroutes, I went ahead and devised a different start point in Green River, Utah. I started off on Bikepacking Routes Intermountain Connector route, who we partnered with and released these Intermountain Connector routes in the Bicycle Route Navigator app. So I followed one of those routes east to Salida, Colorado, and then continued north on the Great Divide all the way home to Missoula. Right south of Missoula, I hopped off of the Great Divide and got on another bikepacking route, Intermountain Connector route, and went home to Missoula that way. So based on these experiences, I tested several devices. I did various methods of uploading data into various devices. I had battery packs. I had 2 different dedicated GPS receivers. I had mobile apps. I was just kind of testing everything and that I could get my hands on. And so based on this experience, I really enjoyed helping folks plan their trips this year on the Great Divide. And that's been a passion of mine for sure.
Yeah, I think that's super cool that you have that longevity and the different experiences within the route department, because you're able to give people that really good feedback and assistance in planning. And it's something that we hear. I'm on the development side. Maybe I should have introduced myself. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Mizell. I'm on the development side. Helping to get out the word of the great work that our routes and other teams are doing. But something that we hear regularly is about how much of a difference it made to get to speak to somebody on the phone or one-on-one and get that assistance and the amount of confidence that it gives to people, which in turn results in a much better experience, a safer experience, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that you were there from the beginning on a lot of these, planning them, creating them, scouting them, and then riding them, gives people that confidence. I think that sets us apart in some ways from many other route developing organizations. But thank you for that background. Super interesting. I do want to focus on what the point of this webinar is, and that is the Short Routes program. So obviously now you've done a whole bunch of really cool long distance stuff, which was where your heart was originally. And now we're shifting towards the short route discussion. Can you give us a quick overview of the program and why we as an organization have identified it as an important next step or strategic program area that we're expanding into?
Sure thing. Adventure cycling and the routes team specifically have long focused on what we call epic rides, long distance, cross country, lifelong dream, dip your tires in 2 ocean rides. Um, and these are fantastic experiences. Um, these rides do have requirements though that keep many folks from participating. These requirements take the form of time. Um, so many of these rides are thousands of miles long. They require often weeks and months of your time. Folks are busy. Folks have jobs. They have families. They have other duties, and just other things that take their time. So that is a requirement. You need to put all those things aside for months at a time, often, to do them. There's also requirements in as far as skills and experience. I notice this all the time with helping folks plan and do logistics. If you are setting out on a months-long excursion where you're on your bike for 60, 70 days, that requires logistics. You need to, again, put everything else aside in other parts of your life. You need to schedule resupply stops, make sure you don't run out of water. There's logistics that go into this. And those are just trip logistics. There's logistics related to, how do I ride a bike for that long? How do I are there certain strategies that I can use with my training, with my exercise, with getting fit, being able to stay in the saddle for hours and hours every day? Those are also very helpful. But again, they take time. It takes time to develop that training, that state of being able to, again, make sure that your body responds as well as possible to being out for weeks and weeks at a time on a bike. And then there's requirements in as far as resources, and this is a big one. There's a lot of expenses if you're going to be out riding your bike for that long, whether you're camping or you're staying in hotels. Those all cost money. This resupplies themselves nowadays, grocery prices with inflation and everything is more expensive than ever. And then also how much it costs to purchase good gear to, again, that's durable enough, that is practical, and again will survive a trip over several weeks and thousands of miles. The Short Routes program really seeks to lower the barrier for entry for folks and create crowdsourced offerings in the ACA route catalog that are just easier to do because they compress the time. Again, they're done over one night, a weekend, or 2 to 5 nights, which is much more reasonable. It means less time, less distance. Your skills and experience, again, those can be learned along the way during these shorter excursions, rather than taking the deep commit and just hopping on a bike and expecting everything to work and function for for a couple months on the bike. Again, there's just a high commitment of sustaining a bike tour across weeks and months. Shortening distance and time will alleviate those pressures and, again, lower the barrier for entry. Initiating new riders is super important for this program. But just because the time it takes to complete a short route is compressed doesn't mean a seasoned rider won't enjoy it either. We'll also be offering short routes of varying difficulty on paved roads, on unpaved roads, on separated bike paths, paved and unpaved, and also single track trail when it's appropriate. The difficulty, the surface conditions, those will not disqualify a short route from being approved by Adventure Cycling. Another need that Short Routes is serving is related to the fact that Adventure Cycling, and especially the routes and mapping team, we've long received feedback for great routes that we should consider mapping. And it didn't take me long to realize that route development is best done as a collaborative process between us, who have the skills to map it, and to review it and to verify it. And then the local, whether it be a volunteer, a member, a customer, someone who's engaged with us previously, tapping into their local knowledge of the best route. It's a collaborative process, and really, finally, here with short routes, we have it's an official mechanism to take in this feedback and then share it out to our wider riding community.
Yeah, that last point that you made is immediately where I jumped to with when we're looking at a whole map of the US. We're saying, well, we get from this coast to this coast, we have our route network. We can kind of see here's where the gap is. You know, in the southeast, there's a big gap. We can put a route there. But if we are in somewhere in Maine and we don't have staff at this small community in Maine, but there are members who have a great route that they want to share with others, we can't be everywhere for everybody, but we can give that sort of backbone and that review and that sort of check off for the rest of the community. And I think that we'll be able to get a lot of really cool community-based routes that way. Speaking of which, moving into sort of the next part of this conversation about submission of short routes, which is open now, and maybe you can speak about when it was open and what that timeline has been like. But we are receiving short route submissions for people to go out, create, share their route with us to be reviewed and eventually potentially published for other folks to ride. Can you give us a rundown of what criteria you're looking at for short route submission? Well, I think we're calling folks who are submitting them developers. What are the things that you need from them? What are the deliverables and the mechanisms to sort of make it official and to get their route submitted?
Sure thing. Yes. For this, I'm going to share my screen.
Nathan, do you mind if I actually, sorry, cut you off real quick?
Go ahead.
I also wanted to shout out one more time in case y'all didn't hear. Hayden, who is here as a panelist, you probably see, but no camera on, is on. Shout out Hayden. She's helping us on some of the chat stuff. Nathan's going to be talking about some links right now, and Hayden just dropped him in there. So just wanted to shout out Hayden and let you all know what her participation is. So anything that he mentions link-wise, she'll be dropping into the chat for you all to check out after this.
Thank you for being here, Hayden. So here we are. I hope you all can see my screen. This is the main landing page for short routes. This can be found at adventurecycling.org/routes and maps/short routes/. And so this is the main landing page. This is where anyone will begin their experience learning about the short routes program at Adventure Cycling. If you scroll, I'm gonna skip all the way to the bottom here, and here you'll see our overview map. As you can see, it's pretty sparsely populated for the US, and that's where we're going to be relying on everybody watching this video to help us populate this map, help us fill in all the gaps. Currently, there are 13 routes published here, and this was a soft launch that was done of short routes last year. I believe it went live last June 2022. We have reopened new short route submissions, and it's been about 2 weeks approximately since we opened new submissions up. So here, once your route is reviewed and if it is approved, then this overview map that I'm sharing here. This is where ultimately your route will go and be seen and publicized with the wider community. And as far as a new submission, I'm going to scroll up here. Submitting your short route, this link can be found here. And I believe there's also, yes, there's a button for it at the bottom too, right at the bottom image right here. And if you click that, it'll go to adventurecycling.org/routes and maps/short routes/submit. And herein you will find questions, or excuse me, information about criteria for a short route, requirements, all those various things we're looking for. Criteria is generally these 3 items, and anyone who has ridden a great local route, you've ridden it multiple times, you know it like the back of your hand, you could probably answer these questions right off the bat. The criteria we're looking for short routes: Again, it comes to the length and duration of the trip, i.e. the word short in short routes. These routes should take a beginner 2 to 5 days to ride. Other criteria, the routes can be anywhere in the US. Now, there's a little bit of movement with this criteria because we have actually received some submissions or some asks for submissions in Canada. We can do reviews and approvals more easily with the tools the routes team has at our disposal in the US. But I do believe that there will be some discussion about opening this up to at least Canada in the future. For now, anywhere in the United States is the focus. And also distance. Routes can be anywhere from 50 to 200 miles long. There's 2 other important criteria that I'm going to mention. One of them has to do with recency. We are asking, and that routes that are submitted have been written recently. Again, to make that review and approval phase that happens after a submission comes into adventure cycling, to make that phase as quickly and done as efficiently as possible. So there's actually a place to indicate in a form when it's been recently written, and I'll get to the form in just a moment. Also important to note as far as criteria, and I mentioned this just a moment ago, we're going to be accepting routes on any surface with any type of elevation profile, any type of elevation change, difficult, not difficult, mountainous, flat, urban, rural, in the middle of a national forest, in the middle of Nevada. It is all fair game as long as these other overarching criteria are met. There's definitely a safety aspect that we're looking for as criteria. And again, I realize that this is rather subjective, but that will be a part of the review that ACA, myself, and the routes team here at Adventure Cycling does, is determining if there's any outstanding safety issues on the route. And that will also be considered when it's time to approve or not. For requirements, we try to keep this simple. 10 to 15 photos, photographic imagery. Again, it's so easy to visualize and envision what the route is like if there's good imagery to accompany a submission. So we're asking for 10 to 15 photos, roughly. We love photos of people on bikes, on loaded bikes, with a group, just by yourself, with a scenic sunset in the background. Again, that is a part of the submission. Route description, this is essentially text information describing the route. Where's it going? What are highlights? What are points of interest? Are there any historically significant places? Is there a cafe that just has the best pastry or baguette or something that just a road-weary cyclist shouldn't miss? We want to make sure that we capture all that information in text. And then the third piece is a Ride with GPS map link. Ride with GPS is just a fantastic platform, a fantastic application for planning bike routes. Also sharing bike routes online, publishing them. You can go and search their public search engine if you want a route in any area, and it provides for that. Granted that a person has made their route public within that search area. So I will get into the details of this later, but the Ride with GPS map link, it's very easy to use. It's very well supported by the Ride with GPS team, and it's very easy to almost instantaneously navigate a Ride with GPS map link when it has been created if a user installs the Ride with GPS mobile app. So there's various reasons for doing this. There's many benefits to submitting the deliverable in this format. And also there's just a lot of folks who are well versed in Ride with GPS and their route planning tools. And that's also extremely helpful. Sorry, my mouse is acting up. There you go.
Nathan, did you want to go into more specific information on this, or I would love to. Yeah, so let me know. I have one specific question that I want to follow up with on the Ride with GPS.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Continue.
I'm about to launch a sample Ride with GPS
Okay,
map
great.
URL so folks can have a look of the things that we're looking for.
Great. Well, I'm sure that you were about to answer the question anyway, but yeah, I assume folks would love to see it.
Yeah.
You're right. Many folks do use it already, but for folks that aren't, and particularly since we are asking folks to submit via Ride with GPS, getting an overview of what you need in it. And then also if you could touch briefly on, I think that I know that the Ride with GPS at this moment for submission requires the premium subscription, and what Adventure Cycling is doing to make that not available for folks.
Absolutely. So we are asking that folks, and here's an example, here's a sample, a finished and actually already published short route for the Seattle metro area. And this is an example I'm providing. So the premium subscription is required for short route submissions, and it's for these pins that you see. Here's one for a transportation center. Here's one for a caution area. Here's one for a park. So these are what Ride with GPS calls POIs. POIs are really the value added part of a Ride with GPS map URL, and especially a short route, because again, this is another way of describing to a user navigating, for instance, this Seattle to Lopez Island route. It indicates directly on there, here's the campground. This is where I should aim for at the end of the day. Here's a caution area where there may be some heavy traffic, where shoulders may disappear. Here is a bike shop, which obviously every cyclist who has been on any type of bike trip knows it is always in the best interest of a cyclist to know where a bike shop exists. So adding these points of interest to the Ride with GPS map in their route planner requires a premium membership. These can be had at $10 per month. If a submitter, or excuse me, a route developer foresees any issue with covering this cost, the $10 per month cost, I would just ask to please let us know. You can send an inquiry directly to newshortroutes@adventurecycling.org, and we can discuss options. So getting down to the Ride with GPS map URL itself. So what we ask for here is, you can see this route line. The route line, we ask that it is not created or based on an imported ride, where someone has ridden the route and used a GPS device and or a GPS mobile app to record their ride and then upload into Ride with GPS. We ask that submitters do not follow that procedure. The reason that we're asking for that is because if you just upload a ride, then it does not contain this cue sheet on the side here. And again, this cue sheet is super important too for navigation, for turn-by-turn navigation. If you use the Ride with GPS mobile app, you can enable turn-by-turn notifications. Your device can beep at you, LED lights can flash, and can let you know when an upcoming turn is approaching. And so this cue sheet is also another piece that we're asking to be included in these submissions. These cue sheets are automatically generated when you create this route in the route planner itself. And anyone who's used Ride with GPS probably knows about the route planner. This is done simply just by clicking on the roads you are interested in following directly on the map screen in Ride with GPS. As soon as you click and connect together all those roads, cue sheets are added automatically to the left-hand menu here. As far as building that in the Ride with GPS route planner, in Ride with GPS, that terminology is known as a route. This is a Ride with GPS route as opposed to a Ride with GPS ride. These distinctions, I understand, can be complicated and confusing, but again, there's a tremendous help help pages resource on the Ride with GPS website. It can be found up in the drop-down menu here, help. And it's well documented. There's folks actively monitoring it, and we'll get back to you if you want to submit a request, and can answer any of these questions about, again, the distinction between a route and a ride. How do I add queues? How do I add POIs? Any of these things, they can be determined via the Ride with GPS help resources. And also at Adventure Cycling, we can also help support some of these inquiries too, at that newshortroutes@adventurecycling.org address. So the main pieces are the route, again, created in the route planner, the POIs of all the various locations. And then I talked earlier about photos. Photos can also be added directly to the Ride with GPS map itself. There is a section for it, and because photos have already been added to this map, it looks a little different if you're adding it for the first time. There's actually an orange link in this left-hand menu that just says add photos. In this case, photos have already been added. So there's an open gallery link, and here are all the photos that this route developer has posted for this particular short route. It's very surface level information right now. If there's any more information that you'd like, especially about properly formatting this Ride GPS map link, I would refer back to the submission page. And especially there's a submission helpful hints PDF, which delves deeply, or more deeply than I'm going to today, into all the intricacies and all the details we're asking for with creating that Ride with GPS map URL.
Yeah, I think that that's an important reason of why we wanted to record this today also. So that anybody watching this right now, everybody who registered will get this email to them, and it will also be posted to the Adventure Cycling YouTube channel. So you can refer back to it and kind of follow along where Nathan was clicking through as you go through to submit yours and make sure that you're hitting all of those deliverables.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nathan. That was a great overview. And yeah, the FAQ sheets and stuff are going to be really helpful for folks as well. I
want to mention one more thing, because it's a very important step. So after you've determined that the route that you know and love so well, the local route that you've ridden weekend after weekend, years after years, you know every bend, every turn in the road, you know where that rough stretch of gravel is, you know where that bakery is that offers the fantastic pastries, and it meets all the criteria that I mentioned earlier. To submit your route, to actually submit your route, you want to click on the submission form button in the submit webpage. Therein, a Microsoft form will load, and this is where you enter all the information that is then transmitted to the short routes team at Adventure Cycling. And there's areas here for your personal information, and you can name your route. You can choose where it's the geographic area that it's representing. You can rate its difficulty based on a model that our guided tours team uses. And again, recency, I talked about how that is an important factor to consider. How recently has the route been ridden? You can add your map link directly, your Ride with GPS map link directly to the form. You can also add a photo link. If you don't want to upload your photos to Ride with GPS, you can easily just paste a Google Photos link, an iCloud link, OneDrive link, and just give us permissions to see the photos, and you're essentially done there. Here's the area for the route description text also that I mentioned earlier. Know before you go, which is a piece of the route description text. Again, more details about these things are all offered in the helpful hints PDF. And then, of course, we just want to know about yourself, the route developer, the route submitter, and there's an area to share information with you there. I will also note that it will take several weeks to process submissions as they start filtering in. and just to be patient with us as we are kind of determining workloads and seeing how many new submissions are coming in. You will absolutely be hearing back from us about your submission. It just may take a little bit of time for us to get back to you.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, I wanted to ask also just about I don't think that this next part will require you to share your screen, so that's up to you.
Yeah, I will stop sharing.
About the goals of the program and what the routes team sees as goals for route development.
So the goal for the remainder of 2023 is to be able to publish 40 new short routes to that overview map that I shared earlier by the end of 2023. It's a pretty ambitious goal, but I do believe that if our ridership, if our community, who are well versed in Ride with GPS and they know that route, if they spend a few minutes, an hour or two in the Ride with GPS tools and submitting something, it'll just help us reach that goal all the quicker. That is really the focus for 2023. And as far as how else will this information be shared? For instance, will we have a print map component to a short route? Will we be offering digital data files and as far as GPX files for short routes? Will short routes be integrated within our Bicycle Route Navigator mobile app? These are all questions that remain to be answered. I can say as far as a print component, there's also an export to print in Ride with GPS itself. You can print PDFs, and those include cue sheets and detail maps to give graphical information. Again, if you're used to that cue sheet and putting it in your bike bag on your handlebars, there's already from Ride with GPS an option there. GPX downloads, again, that is something that has already been integrated with Ride with GPS itself. There are file exports from the Ride with GPS platform. And as far as Bicycle Route Navigator mobile app, there's a little more discussion that needs to be had there, but I would not put that out of the realm of possibility, again, perhaps in 2024 or beyond.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, if we had 40 new routes by the end of the year, it would be up over 50. And that overview map would start to be a lot more colorful, hopefully.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And, with the amount of participation that we have right now, the number of folks who registered for this event, so I assume will watch this video whenever they get the link, you might be pretty busy in the coming weeks, hopefully. I have just one other thing to say as we close up, Nathan. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add or you feel like we missed out that is important information?
I just wanted to say, this is a very crowdsourced effort. This is new territory somewhat for adventure cycling. We're relying on our community to help grow this new route library. Please get out there and continue riding, ride new routes, find a favorite local route that spins up to a state park campground and back. Keep working at it. If there's an issue with a highly trafficked road and you think there's a better route, please get out there and streamline it. And when you've done so and you've really struck gold on final format for that ride, let us know, report back to us. And just generally, I thank everybody for joining today. I thank all future submitters, all of our members, future route developers for just taking the time to participate today and watch this video today. And get out
Absolutely.
there and ride.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, everybody who's probably on this call, how you heard about this is that you're on our mailing list. If that's the case, you almost certainly saw that last week we did launch a fundraising campaign primarily around this short routes program. The two main asks in that were, one, this, help us go out there and lend us your expertise in your local area and share that joy that you've had with those routes with other folks by mapping them and submitting them. And the second part of that is we are, the main part of this short routes program is to lower the barrier to entry to bike travel. And one of those big barriers is financial. And we want to continue to be able to deliver these routes for free. Nathan's life doesn't go for free though, unfortunately. So we do have staff who are putting a lot of hard work into this and hopefully managing many submissions and sharing that joy with folks nationwide. So please do consider also contributing to that campaign. Hayden, I think, put a link in the chat, and you'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks as well. Well, with that, Nathan, we appreciate your time and your expertise in your 13 years. And this recording will be saved and sent out to everybody to refer back to. And like I said, put up on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.